In these times, I had the possibility to make some observations related to our situation, but also the outcome of this situation. Right now, we have time. We have time to think about, have time to plan, have time to look for some perspectives for the future. From my point of view, we should use these times to think about what should happen after the crisis. So that's, from my point of view, a very important topic, as we see the crisis right now with a lot of impressions or even strikes, what has to be handled. But all crisis is giving also some opportunities. And these opportunities we should work on. There are a lot of possibilities what we can do with our future, and some of these future perspectives are coming up right now. And we should not leave these perspectives in terms of going ahead with the same way of doing as before. Perhaps we can implement some of these perspectives also to our future to limit the outcome of the crisis, but also perhaps to change the way of doing a little bit in a different direction. Perhaps not the virus itself, but our actions, reactions, and our doing based on what is happening right now will somehow influence the future. Not only somehow, realistically spoken, it will change our future way of doing. There's a sentence what gives me also something to think. Nothing will be like before. I think we are seeing this kind of sentence every time a little bit negative. But must it be negative? Must it be seen negative only? I do believe there are some possibilities as well to drive the future in the right manner if we are taking the right things and doing the right things to make future happen. So from my point of view, right now the tendency is negative thoughts, negative actions and negative belief in the future. But I do believe when we are going against our fear, against our worries, against our wish to escape from this situation, but trying to use the time to make a change, I think that will give us automatically a kind of future's thought, what is not only negative, but also how we can come out of this situation. Our subconscious mind is trying to protect us. The reason to that is, right now, all these informations we are getting from all different kinds of media are mostly bad news. Informations, what we are getting like population, but also the politicians. In the population, it comes up to a kind of fear, worries, don't know how to handle these kinds of informations. With the politicians, they are taking sometimes decisions on a fast way, but sometimes not really good thought. So this finally is a situation where we are going ahead with fear, with worries, and what automatically gives us a kind of direction to the subconscious mind. Please don't move, please don't make a change. And this is hindering us for making some future planning, some future decisions which are going in a direction of a positive mindset. So right now we are more related to pessimistic informations, what leads to pessimistic future view. I was requested a few weeks ago from a German automotive cluster when the production situation will be better and the situation in complete will be more on a direction recovery. I had to mention perhaps never, because I've seen the world right now in three factors. At first, we started this request in the times as coronavirus was only related to China. Secondly, the situation right now to be investigated and somehow decided there must be some medical influence. But if mathematically and tactically has to be seen the crisis will be go on up to perhaps end of April or beginning of May, it will be nearly impossible to reach the numbers what we're expecting from this year in the rest of this year. So there will be something not recoverable. Second topic, from my point of view, is the recovery based on the situation before the crisis. Before the crisis, we had some global influences like tax and duty situations, economic fights in between countries, as well as the mobility technology, what was in a complete change, prepared to a complete change. That will happen also after the crisis. So even because of the possibility to increase the production again, it might be that it's perhaps not necessary in that way. So that we have to rethink our way of doing because of these lots of changes what happened in the world even before the crisis without seeing the crisis. And the third one, I think right now we have the possibility to rethink our way of doing, set up new objectives. One example, we are traveling around with materials about global influences, some technical parts from China to Europe, from Europe to America, and these kinds of things. Perhaps we can rethink if it's still necessary to do it like that. Secondly, the situation in Europe, what we see right now, even topics like food transported from Germany to Spain, from Spain to Poland, and even be somehow redefined and re-optimized. There will be a lot of topics what we really can rethink, especially when there are some subventions necessary to do that. Based on subventions, I don't say subventions are not necessary, but I think this should be related to situations like right now. I think it's necessary to protect our economy, also related to all the other countries in terms of what we should do and what we should subsidize in terms of making things happen in the future. That means investing in new technologies, that means investing in new ways of doing, but also in other innovations like human and social innovations that can be subventioned to restart our economy in a perhaps different way. I strongly believe the economy will survive this deep drop, what happens right now. It will not be by itself, but I think with some financial help in terms of financial direct help as well as credits and not fundable interest rates. I think there will be a positive mindset and the business will go on. But I don't think that's enough. I think it's necessary to go ahead with some technology subventions, and what I can see right now over there might be some interesting topics in terms of technology like fuel cells. Okay, I'm telling that because we are already involved in businesses like that, as well as medical digitalization, optimization of health systems and these kinds of things. I think there's a lot to do to make even a little bit of change and to keep Europe on top of the economy in terms of making things right in terms of technology. There's a lot to do, but with financial help it can be done. I think the world trading system is right now in a kind of special situation, but not only right now. I think same situations we had sometimes before, and every time it was a kind of financial crisis as well. I see the financial situation right now a little bit disconnected from the real economic situation. Let's expect we will have a 40 to 50% drop of the stock markets, what is foreseeable right now, and it will be again a black March or black winter or even a black April. What can happen to all of us? It is not foreseeable from my point of view that the value of the shares is related to the value of the companies. I don't believe that the companies are right now 50% less valued than before. So there is something perhaps a little bit different to see. My observations are, we have a psychology topic. Investors are selling their stocks because of the actual situation. Very good, understandable. As well as the systematic systems of stop loss orders are giving even more a downside to the stock market. And by the end of the day, the institutional investors have to sell even sometimes good investments because of keeping their risks under control and update their cash positions based on regulations and these kinds of things. We should, from my point of view, think about if this is the right way of doing, and this connection of financial market to the economy market is still the right way or needs to be updated. I'm not a financial expert, but I think it's a little bit perhaps wishful thinking from my side, but I do believe some adjustments in our financial system, financial trading systems are necessary. Let's talk about where I see the necessities to make some changes based on buying something for a value and selling something for a value. That's okay for me. But sometimes the high risky players are not only giving themselves a problem, but also the complete economy a problem. And that is something we should avoid in the future. And that means perhaps we should think about making things different, and all these extra instruments what we have in the market, what are not related to the real value of the company, might be limited. But make yourself your own guess. Beside of all these innovations like 5G, like new technologies, artificial intelligence and e-mobility and hydrogen technologies, we have seen in the last few weeks only a few topics what are quite interesting as well for innovations. Let's talk about the complete science in terms of finding medical treatments against coronavirus. I think that's somehow expressive to where we see some future innovations as well. Seeing the future innovations also in terms of our social living. Our teachers right now having contacts with all these pupils with WhatsApp and WeChat and Facebook and all the other kinds of things. To my times, I did not remember that even a teacher called me, okay, sometimes my parents, to give me some special treatment, but usually it is like that these contacts, these direct contacts in between teacher and pupil are even more used, and hopefully also in the future. We can see the same situation right now with all the administrations, organizations and necessities for all the standards, what we need today. Today it's possible to get some formulas, some bank accounts, some whatever is needed over internet. That needs to be increased, needs to be better for the future, but there's a lot of improvement necessary, what I call also innovations. I think there is already a project in place, like minimum in Germany, what is called digitalization of schools. Perhaps we can extend that a little bit to all the other institutions and make a kind of contact network, what is perhaps, again, state of the art in the world, and can be used also to innovate a few topics in the European society. So perhaps it's helping also in between friends and family who are also connected with the internet to send some more toilet paper videos and kicking up the kitty videos from Place One and YouTube. The title might be social distance leads to more social proximity, and that's perhaps kind of good news. We are seeing right now Facebook, for example, as well as WhatsApp, are not used only to exchange pictures, but also to keep in touch with people, with family, with friends, and all these kinds of things. So in the private life, we are seeing right now more social proximity, even though the physical distance is still happening and will still happen for a few weeks more. What we're seeing right now as well is the complete business contact and a way of business contacts. We are seeing a lot more teleconferences, video conferences, and most important also an acceptance of the heads of the company for home offices. Something where, like minimum we are in Germany, had a lot of discussions if it's really the way of doing. With that along comes automatically some more responsibility for the people working for us, and giving them more responsibility and perhaps even more guidance instead of direction. I think that's a kind of good experience what we're having right now, and having also a kind of better understanding and perhaps a future better culture in the companies. In the culture setup of the companies, I see a lot of possibilities as well. So these kinds of thinking means less direction, more responsibility to the people, and there's a lot more to do in terms of organizational development. Will change the culture, and that will make us a lot faster and perhaps also a lot more reliable and a lot more motivational to our people. And that is something what, for example, Herbert Diess asked some few months ago, how can we get faster in our way of doing? Old culture in terms of making business, automotive business especially, I think it's time to overhaul it. So good things to be done. I've seen, or I made some quite good experience as well in the last days, as I have been with Mercadona, a supermarket in Spain. As I went in, there have been the employees all with glove and mask for sure, but in a way of friendliness I never experienced before. So that was quite interesting for me, that also there I see a kind of social nearby to these people, what I did not experience right now, and that is something what we can increase also in the future. I would like to thank also to our politicians who are taking responsibility. For sure, not every decision is right, and every information they are getting from specialists are perhaps not ready to make decisions, but they are deciding fast and they are doing something in the right direction. Most of the politicians. Some other, the rest of the politicians, perhaps the next election will decide the way of going with them as well. In terms of finding treatments for our medical situation with the coronavirus, I'm quite sure in a few months this will happen. We will have some medical treatments what will make coronavirus equal to all the other flus what we have in the world. So we have to conquer that also in the future, but on the other hand, it will be not the one of the medical bad situations what we have right now. So there will be some positive also in that direction, and in terms of social and human being together, I think there will be, if we try to learn out of the last weeks and days, we have some opportunities also to go better in the way of doing altogether. I think we should see the opportunities in the situation, not the other way around. Often, and why, people are seeing the actual situation as a start of a worse world. So from my point of view, we should see it as a starting point, and a lot of possibilities. We see also opportunities and way to go up again. As company developer and coach, I have to deal quite often with this subconscious mind in terms of having some defense mode or protection mode inside of the people, and that leads automatically to a kind of pessimistic world side. So from my point of view, we can do something against it with our consciousness to make some pictures, make some targets, make some future objectives, to like minimum plan a future what will be reliable and perhaps better than the actual crisis situation. I will be asked quite often right now when the corona situation will be over. It's difficult to say because it will never be over, in a sense of the influence will guide us also to the future. The thing is, what we have to see ourselves in this situation, I think we have it in our hands. What can be the next steps for the future, where we are seeing the possibilities, and the situation right now can be influenced, but somebody has to take it in his hands. It will not become real by itself. So let's take the chance and hands on and try to make the best out of the situation what we have right now. Quite impressive for me are people, mostly hectical people, calming down a little bit. That is something what I never experienced before. Same as young people, for example my son, are looking for some pedestrian walks. Also kind of strange word for them in the past, but right now they are going to that. As well as books are updating right now, people are reading books. These are major changes what we can see right now. On the other hand, reality shows. I think that's also quite interesting. Trash television called. That is something we can see right now in a different manner. It will not disappear completely, but I think the importance to the people will come down. And there is also something to see what is perhaps quite more important. The cultural wars, I would like to call it like that, in between Spain and Catalonia, in the US, in between China and US, inside of Germany, inside of Europe. I think there's quite a good understanding right now to make these cultural wars or limit them, because why to fight when we have something else to fight against? The economic situation, the economic crisis, what will come up right now, the political crises we don't need, and we can solve them immediately, only with a little bit of better understanding each other. So I try right now to influence my surrounding in terms of a good future understanding. Sure, the situation is bad and the outlook is also not good. But to do the best with this outlook, it's in our hand to do something like that. So we try with our optimistic future view to limit the fears and giving some pictures, some ideas, some prospects in the future to limit the fear and to replace this fear with some new pictures of perhaps our future. In between the crisis, we have seen some people who tried to incite people against each other, were not really successful with their ideas. So as well, they did not provide something positive to all the futuristic topics, what we need to solve in the next steps. So from my point of view, this destructive way of doing is not accepted by the population, nor by the complete cultural systems. The breakdown of all the connections, especially in traffic, did not come to a complete lay down of all the connections. We increased social connections and even quarantine, separation, closed borders and all these kinds of things did not lead to a complete disconnection of the countries in between each other. The European Union not completely broke down, and so we have a kind of possible quantum leap for the social systems and also the economic systems in front of us if we are using these possibilities in the right manner. And with a good preparation, the world will be socially, economically and educationally very important for us, will be changing. If these are positive changes, it's up to us. If you like to discuss these points, I would be happy and looking forward for your comments. As well, if you want to prepare yourself to kind of future, we would love to be together with you in a kind of preparation in terms of coaching, in terms of workshops, in terms of working together with you and your company to think about what can happen in the next steps for the future. And what will happen has to be influenced by us. Thank you.